thy name.
A small town prays.
It had to be possessed.
Possessions, strange sightings.
Your whole body just tingles. Not just goosebumps, it tingles.
Underneath the skin of this town lies a terrible trouble.
I have extra people living in this hotel who I do not have to worry about.
The police knocked on my door and said that young Adam had actually hung himself.
And I rang the minister and he said, just get out of the house.
Whatever you may now think about ghosts, about spirits, put that on hold. The next hour could change everything. The story begins here in this sad ruin. We're on the fringes of the Australian outback. Through this place, we will reveal the chilling secrets of what may well be the most haunted town in the Western world.
This is not a place to send your spirit soaring. A fence cannot contain a soul. This is a town with a history. Australia's first mining town. The copper has long gone. Now nothing moves on what was once the busiest few acres on the continent. But many questions remain. A girls' reformatory. Almost a century ago, St. John's was suddenly closed. Why? And what of the stories of a crazed priest who continued to live on here? Is this desolate place the holy of haunteds in a tormented town? Could it be there are more spirits trapped here than anywhere on Earth?
Kapunda is the most haunted town that I have ever heard of anywhere, and that includes the United States, Canada, England, Europe. I'm looking at 34 different buildings and about just over 40 different ghostly appearances.
Even though it's just 80 kilometres north of Adelaide, Kapunda could be in the middle of nowhere. These days, it's shrunk back into its own valley, a forgotten neighbour between two of the world's great wine regions, the Barossa and the Clare. Kapunda is a town of once upon a time. Once a frontier town, the site of Australia's first mining boom, a place where men came to seek their fortunes from the copper-laden ground. Life was hard. Most found only disappointment. So where does this strangeness come from? Perhaps the harsh life that led to disease and early death? Or could it be the town's deeply religious past? Lutherans, Anglicans, and Irish Catholics crammed into an isolated outpost. And what of the woman who will become Australia's first saint of the Catholic Church? Personal diaries of Mary MacKillop tell of hauntings here.
We are here preparing this place as a home for young girl prisoners. Of course, this is the place that has been for so long known to be haunted.
Yet the town's solid homes talk of a time of hope, of certainty. More than 100 of them live on past the century mark, some of them with a history wrought in iron, wheat, minerals. Once home to 30,000, these days Kapunda rejoices in its history. But it's a history that chooses the night for return visits. This is a journey that will take us through the stories of this town. For here, there are places, buildings, ruins so charged with the unusual, the inexplicable, that many locals refuse to go there.
But there are definitely ghosts around in Kapunda, that's definitely the case.
I still couldn't bring myself to go in that room in the dark.
And Barry's as white as a ghost hiding under the bed covers.
When it happens on a daily basis, you've got your children screaming. This is real.
It is strange. I suppose doing this is strange. It's just from this point on, it's really different, like degrees colder. I think that there's something here, but I don't think they're going to do me or anyone any harm. Writer Kevin McNeil has been studying Kapunda for most of the past decade. His discoveries are revealing and disturbing.
This is virtually like in the movie Aliens, where they say, in space, no one can hear you scream. No one will hear you scream here either.
This should be one of the most celebrated religious sites in Australia. Instead, it is its shame. Religion, St. John's and its failure play a central role in what is troubling this town. It may well have been a girls' reformatory, and in itself not a place for nice girls, but nothing can account for stories of rogue priests, of pregnancies, abuse, of terminations, horror, and burials in unmarked graves.
Well, historically, it was the first Catholic church built outside of Adelaide in South Australia, the first Catholic priest ordained in South Australia, and the first Catholic priest who died extremely suddenly on duty in South Australia in 1860. The following 4 years, 4 other priests who came up here also died here in this manse. From that time on, Mary MacKillop and her group had a school here until 1877. The last time the church itself was used was in 1882, and then in 1897 Mary MacKillop was asked by Archbishop O'Reilly to help supervise and help with the building alterations for the Girls' Reformatory.
History may well explain the extraordinary power of this place and the malevolent presence of the insane priest in residence, Father James Martin. Why did the local priests make life so difficult for Mary MacKillop? What were they hiding?
The nastiness connected with that was connected with the fact that a priest was allowed to live up there, where the State Children's Council didn't want to. The Archbishop wouldn't take any notice of them. Certain events took place that allegedly resulted in pregnancies, terminations of same, because girls in the reformatory run only exclusively by women can't get pregnant unless there are males involved.
Father Martin lived those last tortured years here in this room.
He died on his own up there, a demented man in 1921.
Many still feel his brooding presence today.
I just feel as though I'm going to, if I walk across there, I'm dead. You know, it's a dead room.
For local artist Rick Thiel to just return to this place, he has to break through a spiritual barrier. Each previous journey has produced visitations, cold fear. For him, mid-afternoon is terrifying. Someone, something does not want him here.
It's just death. It's everything associated with death. I don't know how you guys can be in there. I can't. I just can't. I'm sorry. I just can't. You know, you guys seem to walk around and don't hear it, don't feel it. I don't know what it is.
Rick Thiel's time at St John's produced not only a fear of Father Martin, but his psychic powers seemed to detect a strangeness surrounding the unmarked section of the cemetery at the bottom of the hill. Here, some of the girls from the reformatory are buried.
That grave over in the corner worries me, though. Something unusual about that.
Rick's connection would also lead to a confronting visit to his home by a ghostly young girl.
She basically gave me a hug, and basically it was really quite casual, like, just in the neighbourhood, thought I'd call in. And I actually thought somebody had said hello and had just sort of flitted off. And then I realised that I was standing in this drenching cold rain, and I came inside as white as a ghost, no pun intended, and I just stood there, and everybody, suddenly a couple of people looked at me and said, "What's wrong?" My hands were boiling hot and absolutely dry, and it was 4 degrees that night, and where she'd hugged me was dry and the rest of me was wet.